Hey guys, Thabit here, and I am in the Middle East. Which is obvious from all the sand around me. I mean, you see it all the time in movies that revolve around the Middle East. And speaking of the Middle East is having a lot of major problems right now. That is why I am here today to talk to you guys about a much smaller problem. Arabs in Hollywood. With the Middle East being such a hot topic in the news in recent years, there's been a growing demand for Arab-themed content in Western entertainment. So, everything from your big budget Hollywood films like American Sniper to your TV shows like The Tyrant, where a Middle Eastern American goes back to the Middle East to deal with his brother who is well, I'll let you figure that out. But the thing is, this trend isn't entirely new. There is a long history of Arab obsession in Western entertainment, and that is what I wanted to explore with you guys today. But in order to truly explore that, we would have to go back in time, back to the beginning, when the world of cinema was just being born. Oh, hey! I see you guys there. Did you guys know that since the 1920s, Hollywood has maintained a place of eminence in the world of cinema, a place that it hasn't ever really quite relinquished. And since the inception of cinema, people have always enjoyed seeing the exotic on the big screen. And back then, nothing was more exotic than the Middle East. It was an exotic and sinister looking place, the perfect setting for any film. But these films were often based on loose interpretations of the Middle East, and these loose interpretations led to an ignorance of the Middle East. This ignorance can be seen in films like the 1924 Thief of Baghdad, where people being called to prayer are seen praying in the middle of the streets. Another form of ignorance can be found in the names given to Arab characters, names that don't even exist in the Arab world. Names such as Kali, Kada, Ahlif, and even more recently in Fast 7, Safar.
Thabit!
I gotta go. But this set the tone of two kinds of Arabs in Hollywood. The violent sexual ones that abducted women, and the comedic buffoons that were sometimes good and sometimes bad. The 30s and 40s saw a lot of remakes of the exact same films, and while the films did improve, the themes really didn't. But in the 50s and 60s, a popular new cinema genre emerged. A genre that emerged around the Arab-Israeli conflict. The Arab-Israeli war saw a rise in anti-Arab films. Some of these films even begin to link Palestinians with Nazis, like the 1960 film Exodus. These films portrayed the Arab-Israeli war in much the same way as cowboys and Indians. Palestinians were often unseen or faceless in the distance. And Israelis were often good guys working with the Americans. Hey! What are you doing?
Thabit!
Yeah!
Is that you?
Yeah!
My bad, man!
Films like the 1966 Cast a Giant Shadow portray Palestinians as evil people that would kill anybody for no reason. Stop! What the hell? Stop! Stop!
Sorry!
How did I get here? The 80s and 90s saw more Arabs appearing as bad guys, except this time in films that had absolutely nothing to do with them, like the 1985 film Back to the Future, where we see a group of Libyan terrorists kill the professor.
Go!
Or the 1981 film Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, where we see more Arabs working with Nazis, but this time with their pet monkeys too. In 1981, a film critic stated that Arabs had replaced Nazis and commies as the new movie Mimi. The 2006 documentary Real Bad Arabs talks about how Hollywood manipulates images of Arabs. It talks about how Hollywood is obsessed with the 3 Bs: belly dancers, billionaire sheiks, and bombers. It also talks about how in the 80s and 90s alone there were at least 30 films that portrayed Palestinians as people intent on killing all Americans. Cotton candy. See, the thing about these negative stereotypical images is they're also present. They're also present in other popular culture too, like music, television, comics, jokes, and even wrestling. And Arabs aren't the only ones to have suffered. Oh no, the Native Americans, blacks, Jews, Russians, Hispanics, they've all suffered too. So why does it seem like Arabs are the only ones still fair game for slander? Well, one possible reason is Arabs are the world people Americans know least about. They haven't had a big enough population to counter their stereotype. So while your average American comes across your European, African, Latin American, or Asian descendant, they don't come across a lot of Arabs. And while these groups have had a chance to effectively counter their stereotypes, Arabs really haven't. Not all Hollywood films stereotype Arabs. Films like the 1999 film Three Kings has a more realistic portrayal of Arabs. Another film that does this is George Clooney's 2005 SYRIANA. But the sad fact of the matter is, not all Hollywood films do this. The good news, though, is that there are a lot of independent films and Arabic talent films outside of Hollywood that are fighting against these stereotypes. Films like the 2005 Palestinian-Israeli film Paradise Now, the 2013 Welsh-Egyptian film My Brother the Devil, Elias Suleiman's The Time That Remains, and Lebanese director-actress Nadine Labaki's Where Do We Go Now? And all of this brings us to today, where we see all of these Arabic themes coming together, from the billionaire sheikh that directly referenced Gaddafi and his elite female bodyguards in the 2015 film Fast 7, to children being portrayed as terrorists in the 2014 film American Sniper. There's even a trend in nationalities that can be observed, with Palestinians and Libyans being the preferred Arabs in the 80s thanks to Yasser Arafat and Gaddafi, with Iraqis becoming more popular after the Gulf War. And I guess you could sum all of this up as creative decisions made for entertainment purposes, like Mission Impossible's decision to pay tribute to the Arabic films of old with souks, sandstorms, and old ports. Those were obviously creative decisions made for the film Ghost Protocol, but the thing is, those creative decisions were made to fit a media narrative. A modern urban setting like this isn't the first thing that comes to the mind of a person from the West when they think of the Middle East. They think of camels and tents to this very day. Everything around me right now doesn't fit the media narrative of the Middle East, and that's a problem, because the media narrative affects the way we look at certain things. Just take a look at an example of a problematic media narrative that Russell Brand points out in his video.
Today on The Truths, we're looking at two sets of murders. One by Omar El Hussein, committed in Copenhagen, is a convenient murder because it goes along with the media narrative that Muslims are dangerous and Islam is a violent faith. And the second set of murders on Chapel Hill in America against 3 Muslims, perpetrated by a man called Craig Stephen Hicks, gets less airtime and is being covered in a completely different way because it conflicts with that narrative. The way you're told stories doesn't incorporate this information. Did you know that only 2% of all terrorist attacks were committed by Islamic groups or individuals? Like, I can't get my head around that because I can't think what the other 98% are.
Oh, wait, I think we're getting a little carried away here. See, I'm not saying there aren't evil people in the Middle East, and I'm not even saying that we don't love the desert and camels, but what I am trying to say is Hollywood plays a crucial role in the way the world views the Middle East, and the fact remains there just aren't enough good Middle Eastern characters in Hollywood movies to counter all the evil ones, and this creates a skewed perception of the Middle East. And when those rare films do call for good Middle Eastern characters, those characters are usually whitewashed. Here are just some of the famous white actors to have adopted the role of good Middle Eastern character. Remember that TV show we spoke about in the beginning, The Tyrant? Guess who played the only good Middle Eastern character?
What do you want from me? I'm a pediatrician.
You're an Al-Fayed. They are your family.
Yes, that's why I left.
And when those characters aren't whitewashed, then they're usually played by Indians.
Years ago, Ernie, my balls trust me.
Wait, what is he saying?
He says we're leaving.
May I ask one question?
The point I'm trying to make here is rarely do we ever see a Middle Eastern actor adopt the role of good Middle Eastern character. And don't even get me started on the fact that strong Middle Eastern women are practically non-existent in Hollywood. See, I believe we need to create a new media narrative, one that's voiced by Arabs. Jon Stewart, Russell Brand, Tyrese, these are just some of the A-list celebrities in Hollywood that are trying to change this media narrative. Now, having said all of this, I do believe that this media narrative will eventually change. So, I guess my only question is, will Arabs have a say in what that new media narrative says? My name is Thabit, and thank you for watching.